So thank you for joining me. I'm going to be presenting Indigenous Psychology's Afrocentric Approaches, Creating Sacred Spaces. And my name is Adiba Detterville, and I am a doctoral student, actually a doctoral candidate in the PhD program in the Transformative Studies program at CIIS. I'm also adjunct faculty in the School of Undergraduate Studies in the Bachelor's of Science in Psychology program. So in this slide presentation, I'm going to give you an overview of the elements that you will need to create a sacred space or altar, the process and potential, different ways to utilize creative expression, and how to create both the secular and sacred space/altar. Some of the elements that you'll need is first to gather together objects that hold meaning to you. It can be anything from a rock to a very elaborate art piece. In the photograph here on the slide, this is a small basket. It's about the size of a silver dollar, and it was gifted to me by a friend visiting from Brazil. And in the basket, I have a small crystal, and then often I will also place inside of the basket or next to it the small crystal quartz elephant. Try to include as many natural elements as you can, such as water, wood, plants, flowers, rocks, personal items like jewelry, pictures, mementos, scented items such as candles, sage, Santo Palo sticks, cultural items like flags, fabric, other kinds of symbols, and colorful motifs. You can also include poems, quotes, and drawings. In the image to the right, you'll see a sacred space that I created on my desk in my home office, and it includes many of these items that I've listed. There's unlimited potential in creating sacred space and altars. The type of items and purpose of the altar is unlimited. You can have them as visual aids to help center and ground you, to remind you of pleasurable experiences, motivate you for prayer, and also to contact and communicate with the ancestors. You can utilize it to connect and commune with nature, the divine, and for aesthetic beauty. All of these things hold value, and one is not higher or greater or better than the other. And these are just a few examples of how you can take something very simple, like a glass of water, a candle, and a bouquet of flowers, or make it a little bit more elaborate, place it on a more elaborate lace table, add some more decorative items, and you can have it anywhere from a small space on a table to a sacred space in your private areas like a bedroom or in a dining room. It's a beautiful opportunity for creative expression. So you can arrange the objects in a manner that feels good to you based on the mood or the energy, and also based on the space that you have. There's no right or wrong way to create a sacred space or an altar. The intention is to create touch points that uplift and affirm a state of wellness. For me, an altar is a sacred space that I can tap into and that brings me a sense of calm and reassurance. It also is a nice way that you can create different energies in different places. So you can make the arrangement whatever you want it to and what feels comfortable for you. You can also make them portable. You can place the items in a tray or in a basket to move with you to a classroom or to your office space or to events or other social gatherings. So this is a basket that contains many items that I would take into a classroom when I would teach, and I would put this out on the desk and create a little altar sort of sacred space for my classroom. And then I would invite students to bring items each class that they could contribute to it. This is a picture of my desk at CIS from a few years ago. And on it I had a variety of different sacred spaces that I created. Some were a collection of photos of my family, others were pictures of orishas and other divine inspirations. I had plants and glasses of water and all sorts of different things that I would gather on my desk to create sacred space. And the African proverb that I have here is, a person cannot sit down alone to plan for prosperity. And the reason why I chose this particular proverb is because prosperity is not just about financial prosperity, it's also the prosperity of living and of wellness. And you're never alone in doing that. And so bringing in these pieces, these sacred spaces to create these altar spaces connects you to something beyond yourself. This is a photograph of my office at home where I'm recording this actually. And I want to tell a quick story about the rug that is pictured here. So this rug, I first saw it when I made my first visit to campus at CIIS back around 2008, 2009. And along the border, you'll see that there's a symbol that runs all the way around the border. And you'll also see that symbol on this African stool and also on the wall. So that symbol is a part of a West African communication system called the Adinkra system. And that's an Adinkra symbol. And the name of that symbol is the Dwanaman symbol. And the Dwanaman is basically the image of two horns that are engaged in battle. And so the proverb that goes along with this is, it is the heart and not the horns that causes a ram to bully. So it's a symbol of humility and strength. So when I first went on campus at CIS and I saw this rug in the cafe, it affirmed a couple of things for me. One, that this was the right school for me because it literally had my name on it. Oh, I forgot to mention, I took this symbol, this proverb, Dwanaman, on as my legal middle name. And the second thing I knew is that when I left CIIS at some point, in terms of not having physical office space there, that I would bring this rug home with me. And that is indeed what I did many years later. I brought the rug home with me. So it's the foundation of the altar, the sacred space that I've created here in my home. You can also bring and create sacred space or altars through existing spaces. They don't have to be limited to being indoors. So they can also be pre-existing places, like a favorite grouping of trees or a view that you love to observe. This photograph I took on a bridge in Sacramento, and that's the Sacramento River. And I consider this a sacred space. And then another way that you can also create sacred space is through actually creating an ancestral altar. I'm a practitioner of the African spiritual practice called Lukumi, and it is part of the Ifa tradition, which is part of the spiritual tradition of the Yoruba people. And so this is my consecrated, our family consecrated altar in our home, and it has photographs and other items that represent our ancestors, my ancestors. I'm going to go back to this one really quickly. I was adopted as an infant, and so in creating my ancestral altar, I have images of people who are both my blood relatives and my fictive kin, if you will, my kinfolk. So in my case, when I think of my ancestors, they're not all necessarily related to me by blood. They are the people who loved and cared and nurtured me on my journey in this life. And then finally, this is an image from a community altar that was created for a larger event. And people that came, there was about 100 people that attended this event. And throughout the day, they would bring different items and contribute them to the altar. So in closing, I want to just ask a couple of reflective questions. So what appeals to you about creating an altar or a sacred space? And what type of altar / sacred space will you create? And then lastly, here are just a few selected readings. Well, thank you.